Good morning. The subcommittee will come to order. I would first like to just say thank you to our witnesses who came from all over the country to be here today. It means a lot that you guys took time out of your busy schedules to be here and testify in front of this subcommittee. It means a great deal. I would also like to thank Ranking Member Dr. Joyce of Pennsylvania for his work on these issues that are so important here today, which I know are very important to your district, as well as they are to mine and the folks that sit on this committee. Together, we've held a couple of meetings now on trade, and I'm glad that we share this priority, and I look forward to continuing our bipartisan work on this subcommittee. As a congresswoman from Iowa's 1st congressional district, I know firsthand that for our small businesses and our farmers, the ability to access new markets and export goods promotes economic success at home and in our communities. Today's hearings will focus on how Congress can improve the State Trade Expansion Program, or STEP, as we call it, which offers competitive grants to states and territories to help small businesses, agriculture, entrepreneurs, and small business manufacturers export their products overseas. Given the importance of trade in my home state, especially for our farmers and small businesses and manufacturers, I am disappointed that no one from the Iowa Economic Development Authority was able to join us here today, but to make sure that my friends from the Iowa Economic Development Authority, along with other hardworking entrepreneurs in northeastern Iowa, have the chance to share their experiences with the State Trade Expansion Program and provide feedback on how we can make this program work better as we look toward a reauthorization. I plan to actually host a roundtable in my district on the same issue on July 1st. For that reason, I'm especially excited to hear from each of you today, as I hope to share your insights with my constituents at home and see how your experiences compare to those of Iowa business owners. So thank you again for taking the time. Like in Iowa, exporting unlocks opportunities for small businesses and entrepreneurs all throughout the country. You guys see this every single day. By selling their goods and services abroad, small businesses can drive economic growth in their communities and in turn create jobs, boost wages, and spur innovation. Despite the many opportunities, only 1% of our nation's 30 million small firms sell their products overseas. Recognizing both the challenges and benefits of exporting, Congress created a 3-year pilot program to help small businesses export. 5 years later, Congress made STEP permanent and authorized $30 million in funding through the upcoming fiscal year. STEP gives small businesses the tools they need to start exporting and expanding into new markets. To help connect small businesses with international consumers, STEP provides grants to states to host trade shows here and abroad and organize trade missions for small businesses. Many small businesses operate with razor-thin margins and only a few employees. They don't always have the resources to attend a trade show, design an international marketing campaign, or navigate a foreign country's complex rules and regulations. With STEP, small businesses and entrepreneurs can focus on building relationships with consumers abroad and not worry about the red tape. As we prepare to reauthorize the program, it's very important to hear from the stakeholders, the folks who are doing this day to day, and learn what needs to be done to improve the program and make sure that it works as it's supposed to. Earlier this year, Dr. Joyce and I held a hearing on the reports and audits conducted by our nation's watchdogs, which raised concerns with SBA's implementation of the program. The issues range from short timelines to burdensome reporting requirements to a lack of timely and consistent communication from SBA. I have also heard similar concerns from the Iowa Economic Development Authority about the tight turnaround times with the applications, and I have testimony from them that I would like to enter into the record. Today's hearing gives us the chance to hear from stakeholders in our states working hard to ensure small businesses can take advantage of this program and, again, make it work how it is supposed to. In order to strengthen the program and make it a wise investment of taxpayer dollars, we need your input. I've heard firsthand just how much the Iowa Economic Development Authority appreciates this program, and they are proud to offer a cost-effective and efficient way for small businesses in the Hawkeye State to explore export opportunities around the globe. The IEDA was able to make 37 grants to small businesses, and nearly 40% of those grants went to rural businesses. I hope this hearing underscores the importance of STEP all across the country and provides us with a roadmap for reauthorization. I look forward to hearing from the witnesses on the panel today and the ideas they have had to strengthen STEP. I also look forward to, again, hosting a roundtable on this important program in my district in the coming weeks. I want to thank the witnesses again for being here today, and I'd now like to yield to Ranking Member Dr. Joyce for his opening statement.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. 3 months ago, we held an oversight hearing on the SBA's State Trade Expansion Program, what we call STEP. Representatives from the U.S. Government Accountability Office, the GAO, and SBA's Office of the Inspector General, or the SBA OIG, identified to us program management weaknesses and recommended reforms. Today, we reinforce our commitment to seeing that SBA fulfills its goals relating to this program and maximizes every dollar to help small businesses reach their significant potential on the international market. 2 of our witnesses will explain the role of state trade agencies as administrators of STEP programs. The other 2 represent countless small businesses that have utilized STEP funds to enter into that vast foreign market that our chairwoman just referenced. Each witness will demonstrate the innovative ways that STEP funds can be used to alleviate the burdens faced by small exporters. We know that small exporters have a large impact on the American economy. I've visited those within my district. I've visited J&J truck bodies in Somerset County, Pennsylvania. I've seen the importance of STEP grants. State export agencies use STEP funds for a diverse array of services. Each service has its own set of metrics and expected outcomes. The program's flexibility benefits participants, but hinders SBA's ability to measure impact and define the success for STEP grants. In the small business world, and I come from that small business world, one size does clearly not fit all. When federal dollars are involved, there needs to be a happy medium which accommodates program flexibility and accountability. Small businesses and state officials here today value the STEP program and want to see it reach its highest potential. We in Congress, we here today on the Small Business Committee share that sentiment. As we collect feedback from program participants today, I hope SBA is listening. Thank you for our witnesses for traveling here, providing your invaluable insight into the STEP program. I yield back, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Dr. Joyce. The gentleman yields back. And if subcommittee members have an opening statement prepared, we'd ask that they be submitted for the record. I would now just like to take a minute to explain the timing rules here. Each witness gets 5 minutes to testify, and the members then get 5 minutes for questioning. There's a lighting system in front of you to assist you. The green light will be on when you begin, and the yellow light comes on when you have 1 minute remaining. The red light comes on when you're out of time, and then we ask you to stay in that time frame that we have set to the best of your ability. And I now would like to introduce our witnesses. Our first witness is Wade Merritt, President of Maine International Trade Center and State Director of International Trade within the Maine Department of Economic and Community Development. In this role, he is responsible for directing the trade and investment policy for the state. Mr. Merritt has worked his way up from frontline staff to regional office director to ultimately leading the organization. He has also served as past president of SITO, the National Association of State Trade Offices, and currently serves on its board of directors. Mr. Merritt has been involved with the State Trade Expansion Program since its inception and has a wealth of experience. I look forward to hearing about the evolution of growth in the program, and thank you for being here. Our second witness is Ms. Jennifer Bacon, the co-founder of Flapjacked, a small business in Westminster, Colorado that makes high-protein pancakes, muffins, and cookies that are not only healthy but tasty. Jennifer and her husband initially developed Flapjacked first product, the protein pancake and baking mix, to encourage her children to eat healthfully and ensure their son Jace, which is the name of my godson, by the way, was receiving their proper nutrition. Her company has utilized the STEP program to travel to Mexico and open new international markets. I'm excited to hear about how Flapjack and the STEP program has helped you tap into those new markets, and very grateful for your time here today. Welcome, Ms. Bacon. And then our third witness is Mr. Clifton Bromond, the founder and CEO of Man and Machine, located in Landover, Maryland. Good to see you again. Man and Machine is a global leader in community peripherals and custom hardware engineering solutions, and develops medical-grade keyboards and mice, which allow workstations to easily cleaned and disinfect between patients. Under Ms. Bromond's leadership, the company has grown from 3 employees and a small office building to a 19,000 square foot office complex and state-of-the-art production line. I believe when I first met you, you were introduced as the big cheese. So we're very excited to have you here today. And I would now like to yield to our ranking member, Dr. Joyce, to introduce our final witness.
Again, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Our fourth and final witness is Jennifer Black, who is the Executive Director of Export Development for Pennsylvania's Office of International Business Development. Ms. Black plans and directs Pennsylvania's export promotion and international trade initiatives, including the Global Access Program, which is partially funded by STEP grants. She also manages Pennsylvania's authorized trade representatives in Central and Eastern Europe, Germany, the Netherlands, India, and assists companies in growing sales to these specific markets. Ms. Black is a NASBITE certified global business professional and holds a master's degree in public and international affairs from the University of Pittsburgh. Thank you for your hard work. On behalf of Pennsylvania exporters, Madam Chairwoman, I yield back.
Thank you. And Mr. Merritt, you are now recognized for 5 minutes.
Let's try that again. Chair Finkenauer, Ranking Member Joyce, and of course Congressman Golden, members of the subcommittee, thanks for having me. My name is Wade Merritt. I'm the president of the Maine International Trade Center and, as mentioned, a board member and past president of SIDO. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. The State Trade Expansion Program, or STEP, is a cooperative program of the Small Business Administration and state offices of international trade. We are generally divisions of state government, but some, like me, are public-private partnerships. For those of you not familiar with what the states are doing on international trade, we are generally tasked with promoting our individual states to a global audience. I introduce our program as connecting Maine's businesses and communities to international opportunities. This has traditionally been export promotion and the attraction of foreign investment, but also, in our case, has included diversification of the defense supply chain, promotion of our educational institutions, facilitation of research and development connections between our state and the Nordic and Arctic regions. So the question was asked of us in the summer of 2009, how best can SBA best support growth in exporting and convince more SMEs to export? Our response was driven from our experience in the field. Find a way to provide direct support and allow states to design and implement programs that best fit the needs of their individual business communities. That's where STEP is vital to our mission as states, providing the resources and necessary motivation to get those SMEs to take the leap. Maine is not Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania is not Maine. A one-size-fits-all program will not achieve maximum impact and efficiency. But one that allows for thoughtful and creative methods and is able to support states' own plans will. The flexibility of the program can be its greatest strength, and it can allow for the highest possible return on investment. As I mentioned, we are a public-private partnership. 81% of our clients have fewer than 100 employees. 68% of our clients have fewer than 25. Last year, we worked with over 320 businesses in Maine and completed over 1,100 trade assistance consulting and research projects. Anybody who has ever visited our state knows that it is very rural, with just 8 municipalities exceeding SBA's definition of urban. And with that type of population mix, there are always challenges with resource deployment and service delivery. The STEP program directly supports 2 of our core functions and allows us to extend our resources and be more inclusive and expansive in our product offering. These programmatic areas are driven by responsiveness to our business community and asking the questions, what do they need and what do they want? In 2018, utilizing STEP funds, we launched a refreshed trade education series, which reflected a multi-tiered approach from basic information to highly advanced topics, offered through multiple channels to extend our reach into rural communities. We've just completed Maine International Trade Day with over 400 attendees and a focus on opportunities for the state's forest and marine industries and how greater engagement with the Nordic region could help drive positive economic change. These efforts not only provide much-needed education, but also engagement, bringing small businesses from all over the state into our STEP pipeline. It's our goal to engage the small business community in exporting, and to do that through collaboration with our federal and state colleagues and counterparts, and encouraging them to use all of the resources available to them. Like many states, we organize trade events and international trade shows, offering cost-effective opportunities for businesses to meet international buyers and distributors. During 2018, MITC coordinated a presence at 9 trade shows, supporting Maine's food, seafood, composites, and life sciences industries. All of these efforts had some measure of STEP support, and the variety of shows and destinations allowed for exporters at all levels of sophistication to have a chance to participate. The results have been inspiring. For the past 2 grant years, our small businesses have reported almost $29 million in actual sales from an investment of just $300,000 of federal funds. I'll do the math for you. That's roughly a 100-to-1 return on investment. I want to thank the committee for taking an interest in this program. We look forward to working with you and the agency to ensure STEP reaches its full potential. Although there are issues with the management of the program that I and my peers feel can be worked on and improved, and I'm sure that we'll take questions on, there can be no doubt that the outcomes of the program are significant and they are important. It is critical that international markets be an integral part of small businesses' growth strategy, and it's critical that those small businesses have the support, whether financial, technical, or even emotional, that they need to play offense and to be successful. For many states and the businesses we serve, the STEP program is an important part of that equation. Thank you for your time. I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Merritt. Ms. Bacon, you are now recognized for 5 minutes.
Chairwoman Finkenauer, Ranking Member Joyce, and members of the subcommittee, I'm here and pleased to discuss how the SBA's STEP program has impacted my small business in Colorado. My husband Dave Bacon and I founded Flapjack in 2012 and believe that healthy meals should not only fuel our bodies, but also taste fantastic, of course. We began our Flapjack journey as a result of trying to get our 5 children to eat healthier. We sought cleaner ingredients with more protein for our active lifestyles. This was especially important for our son, who has autism, who has difficulty with the texture of most proteins. Jace wasn't getting the nutrition that he needed to thrive, so we set out to reinvent his favorite foods, which are pancakes, muffins, and cookies. Currently, Flapjack can be found domestically in more than 20,000 stores, including large retailers such as Kroger and Walmart. It's our goal to expand the brand of better-for-you space in the United States and abroad. We feel that healthy foods should be afforded by all people in all economic statuses, especially for children. But it can be difficult to accomplish while maintaining a healthy margin. Oftentimes, we're approached by distributors in other countries asking for payment terms with extremely slim margins. It took us over a year to establish trust in our first export customer. We would not accept terms and were advised by our local agricultural agency to beware. This is a huge risk for a young company such as ours, and at that time we were netting just under $1 million in sales. The STEP program funds have enabled Flapjack to get in front of retailers directly and bypass expensive distributors, making it easier to offer our products at affordable prices. We have benefited from 3 grants to date that have allowed us to attend trade shows such as Fancy Foods in 2017 and ANTAD Mexico in both 2018 and 19. The STEP program also pays directly to cover trade show expenses such as booth graphics, booth setup, shipping of samples, and printing of brochures. We found that the support at the trade shows gives us all full understanding of the market, with great support that included meetings with retailers, providing translation assistance as well. They take on store tours, meet distributors, media. The meetings are face-to-face, are incredibly invaluable. STEP funds received to date total $6,200, which we've attributed about $50,000 in sales in 2018 additionally, and we're on track for about $75,000 additional sales in 2019. That's greater than a 10x ROI on the money that we've received to date. The additional income, which is paid 100% prior to shipping our product from our exporters, is instant cash influx into the business. Walmart, for example, is a net 90. So this has enabled us to build proper team to handle the growth. In 2018, we added 3 new hires to the team that were local to our community, and in 2019, we added 1 new hire. STEP was not just worth the $6,200 cash reimbursement and additional income. To attend a show such as Antad on our own, it would have cost approximately $12,000 to $15,000, not including travel and hotel. The disadvantages would be no translation, no direct meetings, our own setup and teardown, printing of materials, and shipping of samples. The Colorado Agricultural Department pays 25% for 4 shows, of which the STEP funds pay 75% of approximately $65,000. This allows 10 to 12 Colorado companies to exhibit within a Colorado pavilion group of booths at the show. Relationships are extremely important to our export partners, and STEP funds allow us to create these deep, direct relationships with retailers. These relationships that now belong to us, which is completely invaluable. One important factor is it takes time and trust, and can take months and sometimes years, or upwards of a year, so that the shows are a great facet for meetings for existing and new partners to really build those relationships around the globe. When we show up year after year, it shows that we're here to stay. We evoke trust within our partners, and proudly in 2018, Flapjack won the Colorado Exporter of the Year. We have created a space for better for you categories domestically and now abroad, actively exporting to 15 countries where we receive consistent POs and have sold over 25 countries total. Flapjack would like to advocate for continuing to support the STEP program to assist small women-owned businesses like mine to expand and grow beyond our borders and our reach. The STEP program not only allows us to grow through export and create jobs, but to actively stimulate our economy and enhance financial security for our communities and families. Thank you for your time and attention. I look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Bacon. And Mr. Bromid, you are now recognized for 5 minutes.
I want to thank the chairwoman and the subcommittee for allowing me to speak about STEP. Again, my name is Clifton Brewman. I'm the big cheese at Man and Machine. We don't have standard titles. I don't take myself that seriously. We manufacture waterproof keyboards and mice, of which I have some samples in Maryland and also in China using our molds that we've designed. Most of our competitors are from China or Europe, but we have an 18,000, 19,000 square foot facility where I have about 19 employees who work in supporting the manufacture of keyboards and mice that we ship worldwide to literally from Australia to Europe, all over Europe, and have an office in Europe and in Taiwan. Our customers include HP, Dell, GE, Boeing, Coors, Sara Lee, and more hospitals than I can mention. The reason I'm here today is to discuss STEP and the successes and failures of the program in regards to small businesses such as mine. Notice I've also brought up failures because that is a growth area too for us that shows us what we need to do to get better. Programs such as STEP help prime the pump to develop export markets. They don't give us all the money. You have to pay to play in these programs. And it helps in 2 ways. One of the ways it helps is with export grants, which allow us to have matching funds to attend trade shows. And the second, it allows the states to have these trade pavilions, which we are a part of, because it allows us just to walk in and start showing our product without having to spend the money that Ms. Bacon explained that we'd have to spend for just a small booth and all the other costs involved. And they also bring together all the small business owners so they can learn best practices and learn where other companies have made mistakes. So it's not just giving money to sell, it's also networking within your own state and with other states and learning what they do, because most of the time you're in a USA pavilion that allows you to learn from others. So sales rarely happen immediately in my business. We sell business to business, and one of the things that has happened is that we're also asked, how much have you sold at this trade show? And the answer normally is none. It takes years, sometimes up to 5 years, for people to hear, to literally take our product and go through a whole process to put our keyboards in a hospital. And so one of the questions is measurement of how successful can this program be if you can't measure sales. So with us, we do about $75,000 a year in the Middle East, which we use the export grants for the Arab Health Show. So that's almost more than 1% of my business is just from the Middle East, and it's due directly to these export grants, which is $3,000 every 2 years. So it's not like I'm getting a lot of money, but we're getting a big bang because of it. One of the other things that you might want to measure is to see how many companies come back to another trade show, even if they don't get the grant, because that is really showing somebody it's effective, because the business owner is not going to spend their money without knowing that there's some return if it's all their money at that point in time. So that's another option of looking at how effective is this. Are people coming back without having to get an export grant? In regard to the failures that we've seen in this program, I've done Paris Air Show with Maryland. We've done other shows. And other than at the trade show in Paris, other than great French food, we really didn't get much business. But we learned from it, and now we have developed an oil-proof keyboard and mouse that nobody else in the world has. So what I see is that there are definitely things that have to be dealt with in this program, but that's in any program that you have. The question here is, does it basically $1,500 a year adds up to $75,000 a year in sales is a pretty good return on investment. And I would do that any day of the week. And I think a lot of small businesses would if they knew about this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brummett. And Ms. Black, you are now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Chairwoman Finkenauer, Ranking Member Joyce, members of the subcommittee, thank you very much for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Jen Black. I serve as the Executive Director of Pennsylvania's Export Development Program. To summarize my written testimony, I will begin by providing some background that I hope will give context to further discussion on how we have leveraged STEP funds to benefit small businesses across our Commonwealth, and ways we believe the STEP program can be improved to help all of us build upon the success we have already achieved together. We know that exporting makes an impact. In 2018, goods exports from Pennsylvania were valued at over $41 billion and helped to support 176,000 Pennsylvania jobs. Of all the exporters in our state, 89% are small and medium-sized firms, SMEs. And it is in support of SMEs where our Export Assistance Program, those of our federal partners, and SBA's STEP program play a critical role. Through Pennsylvania's Export Development Program, companies can access customized consulting and in-market support services to help them develop and successfully execute their international marketing and sales objectives. We administer our program in partnership with 10 economic development agencies across Pennsylvania, and we also maintain 15 trade offices worldwide covering 51 markets. Last year, through our program, we worked with 1,009 companies, the majority of which are SMEs, and confirmed over $810 million in client-reported export sales. Using economic modeling, we estimate these sales help to support 6,354 jobs in Pennsylvania and generate $45.8 million in state and local tax revenue. In addition to our program, Pennsylvania companies have access to an extensive export ecosystem of federal government service providers, including SBA district offices, 18 small business development centers, and 2 U.S. commercial service offices. Together, we offer a wide variety of complementary programs and services to new exporters and experienced exporters alike, as outlined in our federal state annual plan. The STEP grant is certainly an important component and asset to our shared mission. Pennsylvania has applied for STEP funding every year. We were selected to receive awards in years 1 through 4, and again in year 6 and year 7. In the past 2 funding rounds, our STEP awards were less than what we applied for, so we scaled down our project plans and opted to put nearly all of our STEP funds toward our Global Access Program, or GAP. Through GAP, qualified companies can apply to receive 75-25 matching grants of up to $5,000 to help them offset the cost of export activities that meet their specific business objectives. Last year, we supported 168 companies through the STEP program. Of these, 23 were new to exporting. We are confident the investment of STEP funds we make in support of our companies will continue to yield returns. But even for a larger state program like ours, with an experienced team working on the STEP grant and a comprehensive performance metrics and reporting system already in place, keeping up with STEP reporting is a challenge. Our staff spends a significant amount of time compiling and consolidating data and running calculations manually to fill in the required forms. And in the end, we question how relevant some of the data is to a meaningful and constructive evaluation of our program and our progress. Of course, we understand the importance of accounting for how taxpayer dollars are spent on this program. I mentioned earlier some of the key performance indicators and economic modeling we use to do the same at the state level. But as we prepare for the 8th year of STEP, we encourage SBA to take further steps to reduce the administrative burden of managing the grant. Specifically, we recommend SBA collaborate with states and the committee to do 2 things. 1, identify and define the most important data points and performance indicators needed to evaluate the STEP program. And 2, optimize the application process and reporting requirements to capture and compile that data more efficiently. Doing so will also enhance our ability to make the most of additional STEP funds to support more small business exporters. We strongly support increased funding for the STEP program to $50 million. We believe additional funding for the STEP program, combined with reducing the administrative burden on clients, on states, and on SBA staff, will help all of us achieve our shared objectives. Thank you and the committee for your leadership and ongoing support of the STEP program, and for the opportunity to share our state's perspective. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Black, and thank you to all our witnesses again that are here today. Really excited for the discussion we'll be having. So let's get started. I'll begin by recognizing myself for 5 minutes. This question's for Mr. Merritt and Ms. Black, and I really want to highlight that, I know my state does a great deal with this. We have actually, STEP has provided Iowa $265,000 to help increase exporting opportunities for small businesses. And I understand your states both have also received sizable amounts as well to expand exports in Maine and Pennsylvania. And when the subcommittee held a hearing in March on STEP, we learned that a dozen states only used 75% of their funds in 2015. The GAO credited these leftover funds to the fact that the timelines for states were too short. These tight turnarounds hindered their ability to fully utilize the program. So the Iowa International Trade Program reported only having 1 month from the day that the grant was announced to the day their application was due. Compared to other programs, I understand that timeline is terribly short and very difficult to meet. Could you please discuss the application process and your experiences with it? Ms. Black, do you want to start? Or yeah, okay.
Thank you. So I did make some notes regarding the Step 8 announcement this year. So we just submitted our Step 8 applications last week. I think the deadline was Friday, the 7th of June. The announcement was made on May 1st with an initial deadline of the 31st, I believe, of May, and that was then changed. There were some problems with the downloads and some of the forms, and so the deadline was extended until June 7th. So in the end, we had a month and a week to submit our applications. I think something I'd like to point out is that when we file the applications now, that STEP is a 2-year program, we're estimating events that are going to happen as far out as 2021 in this latest round. And so I think having the ability to modify our project designs quickly and efficiently as we move through the award year would go a long way to states utilizing all of the funds. I don't want to take all the response time, but I do want to mention that in our case, we distribute funds first using state dollars. So we're cutting checks to companies for the GAP program with state funds. And then we ask SBA to reimburse us later. Because we're using state funds first and we don't have a cushion of state dollars to supplement the GAP program, we're over allocating, but as reimbursements come in, they're sometimes less than what companies had anticipated. So almost by design, I don't believe we would be able to achieve 100% disbursement on our award. Thank you.
I won't go too far into the application process. I think I had a very similar experience to Jen Black's in Pennsylvania. I do want to address the 75% utilization. I think we've talked a bit about the lateness of the award versus the kind of our programmatic needs. Generally, our year, as far as the overseas activities and the work that we do, generally starts around September. It kind of follows a school year calendar, if you can imagine that. Unfortunately, we end up not knowing whether or not we're going to have our award until September, until the middle or even late September. The busiest or second busiest quarter of the year for state trade offices and taking groups of companies overseas that are using this is that October to December quarter. So almost by default, we just lose that entire quarter, as I have no idea whether we're going to be able to commit commit STEP dollars to these programs, which is definitely hinders the recruitment process. The move to the 2-year award helped because we don't lose quarter 5, which would be the first quarter of the second year. That certainly helps things, but we do lose that first quarter oftentimes.
Okay. And in your view, would it make sense to standardize the process requiring SBA to announce grants, no later than March 31st, and then give states 60 days from that date to complete the application, and then make sure those awards then are finalized, for example, by August 1st of the year? Would that be helpful?
Absolutely. If there was predictability to this process, and that timeline works beautifully. The earlier, the better, because we're often recruiting for shows in November, in the summer. So August is great. 60-day window is great, and just being able to have a predictable time that we know that this is what's going to happen. Part of the issue has been, for us anyway, we just don't know when it's going to be, and when it appears, it's a kind of a bomb in the middle of the spring of like, you got 4 weeks to go. So predictability is important here.
You can put it on the schedule. Would you agree then, Ms. Black?
Yes, I would definitely agree with my colleague from Maine.
Great.
Thank you.
I saw your head nodding, but I wanted to make sure we got it in the record.
Yes,
But
thank you.
thank you, Ms. Black. And with that, actually, my time has expired, so I will recognize Ranking Member Dr. Joyce for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Mr. Merritt, I'm going to extrapolate something that you said about Pennsylvania not being Maine and Maine not being Pennsylvania. I'll speak from this side. With our chairwoman, I will tell you that Pennsylvania is not Iowa, and Iowa is not Pennsylvania. And yet this is one of the strongest bipartisan committees you can find in the United States Capitol. We work well together. We work for you, and I think that you have to hear that from us. That statement has to be made clear. I'm going to address this to Ms. Black. Can you explain Regional Export Network and how it affects trade opportunities to small businesses throughout Pennsylvania?
Sure, thank you. We administer our export development program in partnership with these 10 economic development agencies across the state, which we refer to as our Regional Export Network. Our office provides a grant to these agencies to help them identify and counsel small businesses who are interested in exporting. So we have sort of a hub and spokes model, the head office in Harrisburg, and then we've got our first points and local points of contact across the state. And using that network, we're able to broadcast opportunities, including the GAP program or other STEP-funded activities, and we're certainly reaching companies in urban areas and in rural areas and a lot of areas in between.
Can you continue and expand specifically regarding using organizations such as Southern Alleghenies Planning Commission within South Central Pennsylvania? How do they utilize, how do they work with you in this process, please?
Sure. So this is through our state-funded program. We've identified these agencies, and each of them are staffed with experienced trade consultants who can provide technical assistance to companies. The Southern Alleghenies Planning and Development Commission is our partner in the Southern Alleghenies region. Their manager is Tina Taylor. She manages their international trade program, and it's her role to be the face of Pennsylvania's export development program in the field. And I should comment to Tina that she's doing a fantastic job.
When you choose businesses, when they are chosen in Pennsylvania, how do you look specifically for those that you feel are going to have the most advantage from a STEP grant?
Yeah, so there is a process for that. We do keep our regional export network partners as the first point of contact. We want companies to submit GAP applications directly through them. They'll evaluate the company's project plan based on the company's objectives, and certainly they're all unique, as we heard today. They're the financial need of the company, and we ask the companies to specifically highlight to us the impact they believe this funding can make on their company in terms of sales, in terms of jobs, and certainly just in available capital. So the first pass is done at the regional level. Applications are sent into Harrisburg, and they're reviewed by committee there. It is a competitive process, the GAP program, and applications are reviewed weekly, and funds are awarded on a competitive basis, first come, first serve, as far as the available funds.
This question is for all the members, all the panelists who are here today. I realize how different each one of you and what you bring to the table. And so we're faced with what metrics would you suggest are best used to measure success? Dollars, certainly the amount invested versus the amount of return. Are there other measurable metrics that you would recommend that we bring into play when analyzing the success of this program? Mr. Merritt, I'd like to start with you, please.
Well, the issue of, thank you, Congressman, for the question. It's lots of, the issue of metrics in these state trade programs has been something that our organization, the national organization, has been working on for years. I can speak to what we're doing in Maine. We do use the export sales numbers because we think that that's the easiest thing to quantify, or it's the closest thing to the ground to quantify, to say, this company, you've heard from a couple of them today, because of this, because of our participation in a trade show, we were able to make this amount of sales. That one's a kind of a straightforward one. The other ones we look at are number of companies accessing the programs, but we also look at number of new companies accessing the programs, number of companies that are repeat customers. That was one of the importance of going back time and again and making sure that you're developing the programs. There's a lot of these, and then, of course, when we start getting into the qualitative work as well, of having success stories from it, that's usually the most compelling. You've heard a couple of the stories here of this is what we've been able to do with it.
Mrs. Bacon, I too have a child with autism, and I realize that what you've done by providing palatable protein to children who have sensory issues when eating, that's significant on so many levels. But again, I'm going to pivot back to, are there measurable metrics besides dollars and cents that we should be using to evaluate your success?
For us, it's giving back into the community, right? But also building of the relationships. So, as we've talked about, it takes a lot of time to build those relationships. And once those relationships are established, they don't go away if you work at them. So like relationships with our kids and getting them to eat, it's also the same in business for us. But for us, it also is adding the people, obviously, but really giving back into the community, right? They make a paycheck in our town, they spend it in our town. So it's kind of that revolving interest of our team members.
Thank you. Mr. Broman, would you please comment to the metrics that we're using?
As I said in my testimony also, I look at, do you go back when you don't have money from the state? I think that's actually really shows that it's successful for a business person, because they're looking at what is my rate of return without any money coming into their pocket, except for maybe the pavilion that you're in. It's, do you have repeat customers? I think you said that, Mr. Merritt, that if I go back, then it must be pretty successful for me. If I don't go back, then it wasn't really giving me the return that I wanted, and that's really telling you, are these programs, I think, helping small businesses?
I thank all the panelists. We wish you success. Madam Chairwoman, thank you for indulging me the additional time.
Thank you, Dr. Joyce. And I'd now like to recognize the chairman of the Subcommittee on Contracting and Infrastructure, Representative Golden. Oh my gosh. I can
People
get your
do
name
that
right.
all the time. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Representative Golden.
Thank you very much. some people probably don't know, unless it was in the bio. Mr. Merritt actually helped work with the drafting of this original program back when Senator Olympia Snowe from Maine was chairing the Small Business Committee in the Senate. So we got someone here with a lot of depth and knowledge of the program. You've been watching this for a while, so I think we have a good opportunity to get some good feedback from you. Sounds to me like there's been an appeal from Ms. Black and you for a little bit of flexibility perhaps in the program once the money's out the door, because you are dealing now with a 2-year program, which was, I think you think, a good change. But what you're telling me is the business climate changes during the life of the grant program. And is there some kind of administrative burden that comes with that? Do you have to go back and request for permission to modify your program, or what is it that we could work with the SBA to make that process easier for you?
Thank you, Congressman. Yes, absolutely. I mean, as Ms. Black mentioned, with the 2-year program in the Step 8 program application, we're now having to predict activities that we would be undertaking in the summer of 2021. We're just on the cusp of the summer of 2019, so that does tend to make things a little bit difficult. The world changes a lot. Obviously, we built our expected ROI for this year on lobster exports to China, and that significantly impacted our ROI. Had to go back to the agency a couple times to explain to them why we were not meeting our ROI targets, because it's on the backbone of the lobster industry. So the flexibility, I think, we do need some flexibility in our ability to kind of redeploy resources as they come in, and recognizing that the plan that we lay out in the spring of 2019 is probably not going to have any, it may not look like what it needs to look like by the time we get to 2021. So the process, it works that we do have to go through either a request process if the change is under a certain threshold, or we have to go through a more formalized process, which tends to make it a bit more challenging.
All right, so maybe we could look at that threshold or something along those lines, but more flexibility. So it's like a change package kind of request. All right. You brought up lobsters, so it's an interesting time to talk about that. One of the questions I actually had for you is, I mean, I know you get in, you do one-on-one. You probably work with the Maine Lobster Dealers Association on some of that export, increasing that market to China. And one would think that they might be looking at other markets, but do you also work with cooperatives? Because I know that you've got the IAMAW Loco 207 group there, and they've done some hard work to get out and find some new markets in years past. But are you able to work with cooperatives as well?
Good question. We're not allowed to work directly with the cooperatives, but we're allowed to work with the members of the cooperative. So yes, and we've had some great successes with the Dealers Association for the lobster industry, but also a lot of the other industry associations in Maine that share membership essentially with our organization, and getting the word out through those communities and helping them access the market.
Is there a purpose behind not being able to work with a cooperative directly?
The program is specifically designed for for-profit entities. So an association is a nonprofit, therefore we can't go directly that way.
No,
but
like the lobsterman is the business.
The lobsterman is the
right?
business in that case, yes.
Yep. Okay. And just in general, could you just brag about the program a little bit in terms of, I just wrote down a list of things I suspect you're working on in Maine, and I hope you are. So like we've got some small, kind of lighter manufacturing development going on in the state. Are you working on increasing manufacturing exports? You talked about composites and forest products. Love hearing that. Farming and fishing too, or like what are you having the most success with?
Well, as you all know, our state is a state of natural resource-based small businesses. So the lobster industry and the forest products industry tend to kind of lead the charge, but also, absolutely lighter small manufacturers. The composites industry, which is comprises everything from boat builders to civil infrastructure. Some of the research spin-outs that are coming out of the University of Maine. We've been working with those folks. We've just completed a grant through the Department of Defense, their OEA program, to help diversify the defense supply chain. That grant has ended, and we're going to start moving those companies over to the STEP program. They have been active in the STEP program in the past. So it's benefiting companies all around the state and in a number of different industry sectors. We pick on the lobster industry because that tends to drive the export numbers, but there's a lot more to it, and the companies that we're working with.
Well, I'm out of time here. I'm going to probably have a second round, but I do want to just comment that you'll let me keep going, or you want to. All right, very good. It sounds like a good measure of success for the program, if I'm hearing you all correctly, would be that kind of analysis of return on investment, because it makes a pretty strong argument for why we're making a worthy expenditure. And a good use of taxpayer dollars. 1 for 100 is pretty good. I think I saw nationally this was like 1 for 30 or something along those lines. But I did want to ask, and this is for anyone, but I think is it Brumond? I'm sorry. Well, I'd like it to be better, but. You kind of indicated, I think, about this a little bit, but do you have anything to say about what the program could do, or any of you can take this in regards to maybe marketing the program itself so that more businesses know about it, more manufacturers, more farmers, more lobstermen, whatever it may be, know to come out and actually apply? What is it about the program that people aren't hearing about it maybe?
Well, I think that part of the problem inevitably is that everybody gets so insular in regards to trying just to survive as a small business person that you're not looking out. I've always looked out, but I think that's in, like, for example, in Prince George's County, where my company's located, their economic development is trying to do that, and it would be helping the local, like you have the regional groups in Pennsylvania, helping them tell more people, hey, this exists. Again, it's more of trying to get people to open up rather than just focus on the local area that what they do.
And do you all feel like SBA is doing a good enough job of having a strategy for making sure that the word's getting out there, or is that something that you think about?
Well, I don't mean to speak out of turn, but I think in our case, our feeling is that it's our responsibility as the state program managers to craft a program that makes sense for our states and then to market that effectively to companies. Could we do a better job? For sure. We could do a better job marketing Pennsylvania's program, without a doubt. So that's always a challenge. And I think leveraging our partnerships with our federal colleagues across the state makes a big difference, and certainly I think word of mouth, companies that have utilized these financial assistance programs and can talk about the benefits to their company. I mean, we've seen here today, there's really no better way to tell the STEP story, I think, than to hear it right from companies.
And the gentleman's time has expired. Thank you, Chairman Golden. And I'd now like to recognize the ranking member of the Small Business Committee, Mr. Shabbat.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, the ranking member, as well. Just like to stop in and see how these subcommittees are going sometime. This one seems to be functioning very well, so I want to commend both the chair and the ranking member. I'll be brief. I think and this may have already been mentioned, and if some of the things have been, I apologize, but about 96% of the consumers on the globe that we all share live outside the borders of the United States, and I know it's a pretty small percentage of small businesses, I think 1% or so of small businesses that actually sell their products overseas, do trade. And so the function that you all have at the state level and in conjunction with the federal government, obviously, and some of the funding and things is critical. So we thank you for the good work that you're all doing. But these have clearly been, the last few years have been kind of tumultuous times when it comes to trade for various reasons. It was somewhat disconcerting to me as somebody who would consider myself more or less a free trader over the years to see both the candidates in the latest presidential race on both sides, for example, come out against TPP. And it got kind of a bad name. And I think the United States, for example, at the international level, rather than be worried about China, so that's a reason to keep us out of TPP, it gave them a disproportionate share of the power with the United States being absent. And so that's my point of view. And the current administration doesn't necessarily share that, and they believe more in bilateral trade agreements rather than regional agreements, which I think they're both important and valuable to the U.S. But going back to what I was saying, the kind of the tumultuous nature, whether it's the tariffs or I'll just leave it. Let's just say the tariffs. What impact has that had at you all and what you're trying to do for your clientele, the people that you're working with? The emphasis on trying to get more people to sell their products on the markets and around the globe. What additional challenges are there? Do we need to educate the public more about the fact that trade doesn't mean that we're exporting jobs? It generally means we're exporting products, and jobs are being created here. It doesn't mean that jobs sometimes don't get exported, but if we do it right, that's not what the effect should be. So just sort of, what impact has this general environment that we've seen in recent years relative to trade, how has that impacted what you all do? Yes, sir.
It's impacted us a great deal in regard to time and effort. As a small business, I'm losing focus to selling, developing new products and manufacturing. Right now, we're trying, because we sell computer gear, that our components come from China, and we assemble them and sell them all over the world. Now, we have to worry about, do I build it in Taiwan and bring it into the country so I don't get impact in regard to the tariffs? For products I'm making for Australia right now, we're trying to manufacture in Australia and Europe, I actually have to do production now in China rather than bringing it here to do the production. People like American-made products. They appreciate American-made products. The quality we bring is paramount. But now, if I have to pay for tariffs for a product coming in to build and then to ship out, I can't be competitive with the Chinese nor with the Germans. So the amount of time I've wasted I just can't even, it's so frustrating. And my brother says, don't buy into it. And he's a doctor. Nothing against doctors, but he's not a manufacturer. And he doesn't understand all the ramifications for a small business person. GE or General Motors, they might have hundreds of people doing this. I have me and my operations manager having to figure this stuff out. It is very frustrating.
Madam Chair, my time's about to expire. I don't know if any of the other witnesses might want to respond to that question, but thank you.
I'd be happy to extend the time.
Hi. For us, our products are made in the U.S., so we don't have a lot of issues in terms of the manufacturing. But where we do make decisions because of tariffs are our ingredients suppliers and where those come from. 65% are U.S., the rest is imported. So a lot of times we make choices based on how that impacts our business. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yield back.
Thank you, Ranking Member Shabbat. And thank you to all of the witnesses that came here today. Again, I know you guys took time out of your very busy schedules to be here, and it means a great deal. Your stories are so important for us to make sure that when we reauthorize, we do this the right way and that we fix the things that need to be fixed. And we know that STEP offers many promising opportunities for entrepreneurs, obviously in Iowa and across the country. And by connecting small businesses with customers overseas, we know STEP can help entrepreneurs grow their businesses at home and abroad. And you showed that here today. More so, when small businesses succeed, their communities thrive, and increased economic activity from exports helps support Main Street businesses and also gives other companies the chance to grow. So I also just want to very specifically say thank you to our small business owners who came here today, again, taking your time out of your very busy schedule where there's a lot going on right now, very specifically when it comes to trade and how that's impacting your businesses. But to hear it firsthand, again, helps us to do our jobs better. So thank you for being here. And I also, again, just want to say it's unfortunate the Iowa Economic Development Authority couldn't be here today. So I am very grateful and certainly glad that I had a chance to hear from folks in Pennsylvania and Maine and all the work that you guys are doing when it comes to STEP. I mean, you guys know firsthand what works and what doesn't. And I'm, again, very grateful for the small businesses sharing their stories to really tie this all together. We must make it easier for small businesses to compete in the global market, especially at a time right now, not harder. STEP has the potential to help entrepreneurs across the country tap into new markets, and we've seen that from what works. And again, we now are learning what we need to fix to make sure it continues. I look forward to, again, hearing from Iowans on this program in the coming weeks and working with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to take the feedback we've received here today, again, in this very important subcommittee where we've taught us so much, and make critical improvements to STEP and ensure it better serves our communities and small businesses. We have a lot of work to do, and I'm grateful every day to get to work again across the aisle here and just show up for Iowans in our country, and grateful that you guys are here helping us do the job the right way. And now I would like to ask unanimous consent that members have 5 legislative days to submit statements and supporting materials for the record. Without objection, so ordered. And if there is no further business to come before the committee, we are adjourned. Thank you.